where is the server? I want to know where is the server and what is the server saying? With that being said, all I can do is ask the question. My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be, but I really do want to see the server. But I have confidence in both parties. I really believe that this will probably go on for a while, but I don't think it can go on without finding out what happened to the server.
There you have it. Much more on that in a minute. Before we get to Travis Smith, we're going to go back to Liberty Linda at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda. You want to finish your point?
Yes, I had friends that adopted 2 little girls in Russia. They said they didn't have any problems with the government nor the people, that it all went smoothly and everyone treated them very nicely. And then, of course, now today, you know, we have these crazy congressmen and you know, people in our country that have literally shown all this hate for what's going on and what our president's trying to do. Anyway, I just don't understand it. You know, it's better to get along with Russia than not get along with them. So, you know, what's going on in our government is just inconceivable to me.
Well, we appreciate you, Liberty Linda. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Kevin.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, Conservative Steve, Cindy, and Caldwell, hang on. We have a very special guest with us. Dr. Travis Smith received his Ph.D. from Harvard and is an associate professor of political science at Concordia University. But we're going to talk about his new book, Superhero Ethics, 10 Comic Book Heroes, 10 Ways to Save the World. Which one do we need now more than ever, or do we need the most now? Dr. Smith, good morning.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me on KIDO.
Now, I got to tell you, all we're seeing is, you know, in these superhero movies is kind of, and again, you're much more of a studier of the superheroes than I am. Mm-hmm. Aren't we just seeing a kind of a second or third rate regurgitation of some of the classic comics of the 80s and early 90s?
Do you have a particular example in mind, Kevin?
Oh, my goodness. Well, kind of, you look at The Dark Knight. You look at the last Chris Nolan film. When
right.
Bane came in, very different from what it was in the comics. They seem to steal the best ideas from it, Dr. Smith. This is why you've got me talking when you should be talking. But I'm trying to think of Doomsday with Batman versus Superman. I guess it's the DC version. You look at the Marvel versions, and you can see some of it going back to even the first X-Men incarnation.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think what they've tried to do in the superhero movies in the last 10 to 20 years is try to be true to the source material. If you remember comic book movies from the 90s, they were often regarded by fans as having betrayed the source material. And so I think in order to put these sort of iconic versions of the characters on the screen in more recent years, they go right for the best and the most famous stories and throw them up on the screen to get us used to them. And I think, however, with Ant-Man and the Wasp and probably Captain Marvel coming out in 2019, though, we're going to see increasing introduction of stories that are less familiar to the general public, now that the general public's been made more familiar with the stories that comic book lovers have known for so long.
Yeah, and Dr. Smith, you got me. Usually I ask the questions, but Captain America Civil War, I mean, that was a classic Marvel creation
right.
back in the day.
Yeah, no, Captain America is sort of in the comic books traditionally portrayed as what was referred to as a sort of standard New Deal liberal, but the Civil War story gave him an opportunity to sort of wave a libertarian flag for a short period of time. And you're right, though, that was one of the stories that they made, one of the better movies out of it. It was one of the more exciting ones.
Well, have comics lost their significance? You know, I have gone over your book, and you're a comic book aficionado from back in the day. There was something about every month going and paying 35, then 50 cents, then 75, then $1 to really read. You have a PhD from Harvard. How big were comic books in your intellectual development?
Well, any comic book fan will tell you any number of words or concepts or narrative devices that they learned on account of their comic book reading. In my book, Superhero Ethics, I look at sort of the classic heroes that everybody knows that have been around since the beginning of comic books like Superman and Batman or the beginning of the Marvel Universe, rather than the most recent characters, which comic book readers know, but the general public doesn't yet until they get their movies. And in my book, I look at the ways in which the most famous characters are sort of archetypal. They manifest sort of classic, examples of different kinds of human excellence, different ways in which human beings might be regarded as admirable or noble. And I think the original stories and the original characters, because they were able to sort of establish those key concepts and differentiate them in those ways, they retain. They have longer shelf life. They're more iconic, and later characters can be too particularistic in their appeal.
Yeah, indeed. Dr. Travis Smith joining us, Superhero Ethics, 10 comic book heroes, 10 ways to save the world. Which one do we need most now? You have it's interesting how you've broken this up in your chapters. You have the Hulk and Wolverine. For people that may have seen a movie on that or know of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, why pick those two characters to prove your point?
Oh, right. Well, the Hulk and the Wolverine in that chapter, I think, is actually really relevant to what seems to be going on in political culture these days. Those are characters that, are in some way heroic, but also in some way, let's say, uncivilized. And insofar as there's a discourse today, almost every day it seems, on whether or not politics needs more civility or more incivility. Here we see two characters that show off their rage, show off their indignation, show off their outrage at either themselves personally being wronged or the people who share their group identity being wronged. And they raise the questions like, if we decide to be uncivilized in the way in which we go and fight for what we think is right or to defend the people we care about, what are the risks? Is it possible to be uncivilized and yet still be honorable? Is it possible to be uncivilized and keep that under control? Or are these kinds of things always bound to get out of control? So that's the kind of topic I deal with in that chapter.
Right. And I mean, when people would think of superheroes, they're thinking of comic books or, movies or video games, but you get pretty deep here, especially when you take a look at responsibility in the city. Batman versus Spider-Man. It's amazing when you think of the origins where Stan Lee. Is there anybody that you think of that has been creative and has covered social issues in the last 50 or 60 years in entertainment than Stan Lee?
He really did seem to tap into something, and the lasting power of his creations are sort of a testament to, I don't want to go so far as to say he's our modern-day Homer, but it's hard to come up with somebody who would rival that status.
Well, you think about when these characters were created, Spider-Man, the X-Men, never mind Captain America and the DC folks, but Spider-Man and the X-Men really were capturing some of the tough social issues at the time, disguised as, comic book heroes, the uncanny X-Men. You could equate that to what was going on with civil rights issues. Spider-Man, a teenager, going through angst. And, before that, everybody was like Bruce Wayne or Clark Kent. It's amazing that Stan Lee and the others came up with these guys.
Well, I think that the ones that endure are the ones that speak to sort of timeless circumstances or problems. And so when you can pin them on something like the civil rights movement at one time, they still continue to bear similarity to ongoing struggles and challenges in society. I mean, Batman, I argue, represents the desire to see order and justice imposed everywhere, as if that's what would be necessary in order for us to live well, whereas Spider-Man represents our desire to be good neighbors, to focus on the social level of our existence rather than on power structures. Do the best you can within the power structure rather than try to reorganize and control it. And the X-Men, right, they do represent a sort of desire to make sure that underprivileged groups, as the phrase goes today, are not mistreated.
But you take a look at Captain America, and Dr. Smith, most of us, when we'd see the Falcon, we'd go, "Oh, there's the Falcon." We wouldn't see color, but introducing that character, said a lot of what the folks at Marvel were doing. We're not getting on their soapbox, but doing a lot for integration and civil rights, where you'd have ultra white Captain America with the Falcon, with Sam Wilson, and it's fascinating how entertainment, we criticize it today, but back then Stan Lee was doing good work.
Right, Captain America, he's everything the Red Skull wishes he were in terms of being blonde and blue-eyed and all muscles and indomitable. But instead, of course, as a beacon of American principles and ideals, Captain America is a friend of all races, and so his best friend is Sam Wilson, the Falcon, and that was depicted and was intended to be seen as unproblematic.
Dr. Smith with us, Kevin Miller in the morning here, Dr. Travis Smith on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, Superhero Ethics. But, you take a look at what Marvel did in taking on tough social issues, drug addiction, the comic code, all those sorts of things. And the DC universe, very different. Your thoughts on, comparatively, DC stayed in its lane, Superman fought Lex Luthor, Batman fought the Joker. Marvel took on social issues back in the day.
Mm-hmm. It is the case that some people want to read superheroes as if they were modern-day mythological figures, as if they were all gods and demigods. And it is the case that the DC heroes, even Batman, the most human of them all, I argue, is a sort of postmodern messiah figure. Where DC heroes tended to have this more mythological character, and their stories tended toward the more apocalyptic and catastrophic. Whereas Marvel stories tried to put things on a slightly more human level to make the characters more relatable to ordinary human beings. In my book, I try to focus less on the super parts of the superheroes and more on the ways in which their qualities of character give us good role models for ethical behavior in our regular lives, our non-superpowered lives.
Indeed. What movie, in your opinion, has really garnered the whole grit of what you grew up in reading comics?
I'm sorry, what was the word you used?
Garnered the vibe. What movie has really taken you back to when you were a kid? What movie really has it right?
I'm still partial to Spider-Man 2, the one with Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
I think that is a tremendous portrayal of, as you said, sort of the anxiety and angst of a coming of age story of someone who wants to do the right thing, but finds that trying to do the right thing doesn't always succeed, and therefore has to overcome difficulties, including the difficulty of the anger of being mistreated and misunderstood. That one I like. I thought Logan last year, which was a sort of secularized retelling of the Book of Exodus for the 21st century, I thought was phenomenal.
What about The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger?
Yeah, I'll confess Batman was never my favorite, although...
You're a rare one. You're a rare one, sir.
I know. In doing research for the book, however, I filled my shelves with a lot of classic Batman stories that I knew I had to go back and read, and I've learned to appreciate them a lot more than I did growing up.
Well, that's a tough call. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your thoughts on The Dark Knight, though?
My thoughts on The Dark Knight?
Yeah, you just said he wasn't your favorite, so you just kind of glossed over that one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ledger's performance I thought was amazing.
Oh, no, it's very disturbing, yes.
Dr. Smith, finally, what do you say to people that are cynical and going, what is this guy from Harvard talking to Kevin Miller a bit about superheroes? Why is it relevant? So much so that, people listen to you, obviously they understand you're intelligent, you're putting a lot of thought into these answers. Why write this book?
Fair enough. No, superheroes are among the first place that our children learn to get role models of who's admirable. Every society puts forward its versions of heroism, characters who make sacrifices for noble causes that either represent who we think we are at our best or who we wish we could be if only. And so if we want to understand our culture, understand where it's aiming at, where its trajectory goes, and then think critically about whether or not the models that are set forth for us as admirable are in fact praiseworthy, or whether or not we might be better off thinking twice about whether or not these role models are good for us. Superhero stories, because they're so popular today, dominating our cinemas, preoccupying people's conversations across the internet, a huge fandom. These kinds of stories are always very influential in any society. These are the ones that are dominating our popular culture today. And so if we want to ask those kinds of questions, like who makes a good role model for us, those kinds of ethical questions, then I thought that writing a book on superhero ethics would be an opportunity to do so.
Dr. Travis Smith, we appreciate you. Again, we urge folks to get the book, Superhero Ethics, 10 comic book heroes, 10 ways to save the world. Which one do we need most now? Your favorite superhero?
I'm really excited about the Captain Marvel movie coming out in March next year, Kevin.
See, Dr. Smith, I like Captain Marvel when Captain Marvel was a guy.
The Shazam, yes. Well, they're fun, too.
Well, the Marvel version, not the DC version. I'm so lost in the weeds with you, yes. Yeah.
Oh, the Kree alien with the NECA band.
Yes, old school Captain Marvel.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me on the air, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Take care. Thank you, Dr.
Take care.
Smith.
Bye-bye.
We need to get Dr. Smith back. Ray Amaya's going, okay, get out of your fantasy world. Okay, coming up next, more Trump. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. By the way, this lip sync challenge that these police departments are doing, pretty amazing. Nampa's done one. Meridian has done well. Big ups to all the local departments. I got to say, the one in Twin Falls is fairly interesting. Much more on community policing next with me, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And the hits just keep on coming. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Joining us now, drum roll please, Cindy from Caldwell. Good morning, Cindy.
Well, good morning, Kevin. Thank you very much. That was very interesting listening to that author. And I will have to say, as far as superheroes, I'm still with Superman. You know what? It was very clear back then without all this hyperbole. There was bad and there was good. And Superman went into the phone booth and as Clark Kent and would change and then go after the bad guys. So I will just leave it at that. And the lip sync deal, I had to bear that last night at the council meeting when they walked in, and it seemed to me rather ridiculous. But what isn't ridiculous, I was so proud of our president yesterday. Your author mentioned the word civility, and you know what? Here we have two superpowers. I love the Russian language. I just met a girl from Russia at a coffee place. She really was. I could hear her accent. Actually, she was going off to the Ukraine. And
she wasn't trying to influence you on the elections, was she?
Actually, the tragedy of all that was I was more with never being influenced by any election. I knew exactly when Donald Trump ran, exactly why I went for him, and exactly what I told. And I have to say, Nancy Baxter, please don't. And your Sean Hannity, I was so proud of him yesterday. He went off on a rant. I expect the Chuck Schumers and whoever in the Democratic Party to be as vindictive and nasty and hateful. They're just twisted pathologically, but that's where their hearts are at. But for people who describe themselves as Republicans, I used to say to her, please don't call me that. I am a constitutional conservative, and I am pro-life, and I know where God would stand on every single issue and who God wants as our president. So that said, I'm with Sean yesterday. I loved what he called them all out on, and as he said, not me, please don't align me with that party anymore, and even think to call me that. Our president yesterday, and something some people have not even mentioned, years ago in Beslan, Russia, a group of Islamic terrorists actually set bombs off in a school. I actually wrote to them afterwards, seeing the face of mothers as their children's blown blown-up bodies and everything else were the Russians had to go in, and they were terrorists. So they're fighting some of the things they are in Russia. I have missionary friends in
that's
Russia.
Right, that's what they call the Chechens. Thank you, Cindy. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk. And to Fly Bry at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Hey, man, how's it doing?
Where you been?
So, I've been on the lowdown for a while. Hey, I think that I'm going to put down a challenge now. I think you and Ray and Maya ought to need to do a lip sync. That's what I'm thinking.
If we did a limp sync, it would be probably with you, Tea Party Bob, Liberal Steve, Max.
Well, the good thing is you just
it would be like the listeners.
All you have to do is just play it on the radio.
Yeah, but that defeats the purpose.
Well, that's the whole idea. Is that
to defeat the purpose?
From the camera, he's a good guy though, man. I think he's an awesome helper dude there. Anyway, that Dr. Smith guy, he used apocalypse in the wrong way. That's like apocalyptic is not prophetic.
Now wait a minute, he's got a degree from Harvard, and you're correcting him.
Yes, because apocalyptic is just revealing. It's like if I'm the stagehand, or if I'm like the stage creator and I change the set back behind the scenes. Now, if you're watching the play from the seats, you're seeing it in one perspective. But now I'm going to bring you behind the scenes and show you how things are going on. How I as the stage director is going to cause everything to happen. And so you're looking, wow, that's a new revelation to you as to how I'm going to be bringing something about to happen. You read the scriptures, Christian scriptures. There is apocalyptic language. That's how God is going to specifically do something. But then you'll also see prophetic language about what will happen in the future, but it isn't going to detail. And we have the book.
Is this really relevant to anything we're talking about?
It is, because we're talking about ethics, superhero ethics.
We're talking about the proper use of the word apocalyptic or apocalypse.
Well, we want to have good ethics with our English, right? Boy. Because you're on the air every day speaking. You got people calling in and talking and stuff.
I went to you. I might have to miss Tanya J. Powers because I went to you instead of holding you over, and I don't know if I don't know if that was a good call.
Well, you should have always go to Tanya J. Powers, man. She's awesome.
You're ceding your time to Tanya J. Powers?
Yeah, let's do that. I like she's an awesome gal.
Are you done, or are you going to come back?
I just wanted to call and say hi and let you know I'm doing okay.
I'm glad you're doing well. You're in my prayers, brother.
All right, thank you.
God bless. Good. All right. Our great friend, Two Fly Bry, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning,
Good
Maggie.
morning, Kevin.
Rolling right along. Out to New York, Tanya J. Powers joins us now exclusively on KIDO Talk Radio from Fox News Radio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you feel it? Do you feel it?
Do I? Okay.
Hey, it's happening. You got Big 12 Media Days. You got SEC Media Days. Our long national nightmare is just about over.
Yes, I am. I feel it. I got it. I'm with you.
That is reassuring, because order has been restored. We're back. We're ready to go. It's time to put away the honey-do list. It's time to forget about movies. It's time to live in our selective.
No. No, you're doing it wrong. That's not what any of this means.
It's time to totally lose perspective.
No.
And embrace our own national secular religion, football, once again.
What color is the sky where you live, Kevin?
Red. Crimson.
Okay. I understand. It's all about that Roll Tide thing, right?
It's so funny, and I think that's why most of us love sports. It's not maybe the athletic competition, but I love the drama in between of it with the personalities and all that. It's like real life scripted entertainment, if that's possible, like reality shows that matter. But
that's a good way of putting that. I never would have thought about that. I like that, though.
Yeah, I mean, and it's fascinating. I was trying to think of something that has been done. A couple of shows have done this where they just profile the most ardent fans, and they just live it. And I don't know. I'm fascinated by those individuals. So
I think those stories are amazing, especially if they're told well. I love that. I'm with you on the fact that the story surrounding sports are more interesting than the sporting events most of the time.
I would say, but alas, I need to get back on topic here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the little red light will be bleeping here, and once again, I'll get a demerit for being off topic. So, Tanya J. Powers joining us. I guess we'll just we'll cut that out of the tape because this is tape. We don't do the show live. She joins us now from, and if you're listening to this live, there's something wrong with the feed. Tanya J. Powers joining us live from New York. The drama continues over a real life tragedy, trying to reunite these families.
Absolutely. I mean, the judge is keeping a particularly close eye on this. There were more court proceedings yesterday when the judge said, okay, let's temporarily put a stop to the deportations of the families that have just been reunited with their kids. That is what was going on. And the ACLU had asked that the parents be given at least a week to decide whether to pursue asylum in the U.S. This, of course, was, right after they were reunited with their kids. The judge, like I said, put a temporary stop to those deportations and said that he would figure out, how he's going to decide on that issue and would, make some sort of definite decision by Monday as to whether that's going to be, the case going forward, if they're all going to have a week or what's going to go on. He's also keeping a very close eye on how this is being handled. Last week he wasn't real excited with the government for the way that this had already been done. Because remember last week was the first deadline that they had to meet. And they kind of missed it. And then a couple of days later, we found out that of the, I think it was 102 kids, they only got a percentage of those back. There were some whose parents had already been deported. Other ones they were still waiting on, some other information, that kind of thing. But it wasn't. It was kind of this day late and dollar short thing that the judge wasn't real pleased about. He wasn't real pleased with the government's plan when they said, okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to get this done? Because you've still got another looming deadline of July the 26th out there. And, if the first 100 or so kids went this, badly as far as getting it done on time, then you've got more than 2,000 still remaining to be reunited by that 26th deadline. So it didn't bode well for the plan that the government had, and the government wasn't at that point, I don't think, using DNA evidence but information. This time they've renewed their plan and said, okay, we're going to use that to help reunite some of these families and get it done in a more expedited manner. The judge is also not willing to just take them at their word. He also wants 3 hearings between now and 2 weeks from now to keep an eye on this and to see how it's going.
Tanya J. Powers, she'll continue to cover that story. You have 2 seconds, or you got to go?
I do.
What do you make of the police lip syncing thing? I'm not going to lead the witness. Your thoughts
of the what?
The police department's lip syncing. Have you seen those?
I've missed this.
Oh, Shirley.
How did I miss this?
Please don't take this the wrong way. Let me, I just did our harassment training thing, so I'm going to say this, and this is from your Southern roots, so you'll get the meaning. Dear, you need to Google Norfolk Police Department lip sync, and we've got folks in Nampa, in Twin Falls, in Meridian, not yet Boise, I believe, Idaho State Police, doing this lip sync challenge. And you'll never think of Bruno Mars again in the same way after watching the Norfolk Police Department.
I can't wait to see what this is going to be.
Now, you know me, I'm a half-empty kind of guy.
Yeah, you are.
And I know that's not a stretch, but I will tell you, I have watched that video. It will put you in such a great mood. The creativity of it, the one take of it. Watching the Twin Falls Police Department, they did it to Pit Bulls. It's a party. It just, I'm saying it will brighten your day. Police departments all over the country are doing it. And, when we cover things, sometimes we need a pick-me-up so you don't turn into cynical Kevin Miller. You will love it.
I'm going to go look at it now. Thank you.
All right. She's on assignment. Tanya J. Powers, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Our great friend, Tanya J. Powers. And, look, I am partial, not I, this is a we show. We're partial to the Treasure Valley, right? Nampa with Top Gun, Meridian with the country song. and I can't remember it, but they did a good job with it, and I'll get to them in a minute. Twin Falls with the party one. Idaho State Police. I'll probably write about this later on today. Why there's more to these lip sync videos than people just lip syncing. I know that's an oversimplification, but you've come to know that and love that, or maybe loathe that listening to this program. A big event coming up this Saturday. We will be there from 11 to 1. It's called Fill the Pantry. Motorcycle, Mustangs, and Community. That'll be from 10 to 4 at the Meridian Mattress Ranch. That's 450 South Meridian Road, Meridian, Idaho. If you're looking for the zip, well, 83642. Meridian Mattress Ranch and Meridian Food Bank are coming together to make sure families don't go hungry. Kids and Food Pantry. Kids have food and their pantries are filled. Please donate non-perishable food items. They have raffles, $5 raffle tickets. Come enjoy, win prizes when the gates open. Head over to the Meridian Speedway for a night of fun and races. By the way, props to Mattress Ranch for doing this. Meridian Food Bank, they do wonderful, wonderful work. And we're always looking to promote folks in the business community and the nonprofit community because you guys make a difference. And today we're saluting people driving. What do you mean by that? Most of us, we go to work, we come home, we go to church. Some of you have lives, like our friend Dave Petzo, and if you don't, you live vicariously through him. But it hit me the other day. I was driving around, and I did 6-7 stops in the middle of midday, and I'm going, my goodness gracious, people that drive professionally, or people that do Meals on Wheels, or people that just carpool. Man, you need some patience. Now, it's good news because you get to listen to the radio, but man, there are just a lot. As I said earlier, I don't know which is worse. Crazy people driving because it's crazy hot, or crazy people driving when it's crazy wet. You decide. Coming up next, back to President Trump. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, proudly defending President Trump. While others stand on the sidelines, we proudly stand with the president, along with Sean Hannity, Lars Larson. Don't forget Glenn Beck today at 9. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And, are you getting ready to travel? Coming up, the seats, no, it's not you getting bigger. Believe it or not, they're getting smaller. But first, some thoughts, some reviews of the recent summit between Vladimir Putin and Donald John Trump.
The disagreements between our two countries are well known, and President Putin and I discussed them at length.
Yeah, I did heard these rumors that we allegedly collected compromising material on Mr. Trump when he was visiting Moscow. Well, distinguished colleague, let me tell you this. When President Trump visited Moscow back then, I didn't even know that he was in Moscow. I treat President Trump with utmost respect.
President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today, and what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer.
The Russian state has never interfered and is not going to interfere into internal American affairs, including election process.
I would rather take a political risk in pursuit of peace than to risk peace in pursuit of politics.
There we have it. Donald Trump laying the smackdown, being ridiculed by conservatives and liberals for being soft on Vladimir Putin. The truth is, the press, most political pundits, they have no credibility. Look, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to understand. You don't go in and try and embarrass a guy like Putin. You go in and you try to charm him. And what the liberal media has done, what the folks that get their media information from Facebook don't comprehend, that couldn't tell you who the vice president is or the Secretary of State. What they fail to tell you is this is all much ado about nothing. There, I said it. Much ado about nothing. Mark this down on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. And why is it much ado about nothing? Because we've meddled in elections for years. We've meddled probably in our own elections. We'll never know that because I don't think that there'll ever be another whistleblower like Edward Snowden. We meddle in foreign elections, and the foreigners, the globalists, whatever you want to call them, meddle in our elections. The bottom line here is that the Democrats are like whiny, sniveling little kids. They're sore losers. And it's funny, in our own personal life, we choose who we hang out with, whether or not we do things with people. I pretty much like to hang out with you, and that's about it. Why? Because when you talk to the libs, and look, I'm telling you how it is, in my opinion. I could be less controversial. I could be middle of the road. I could be, hey, what do you think? Or I could listen to your opinions and you can listen to mine. The bottom line here is the libs are sore losers. They'll go to any means necessary to not only disagree with conservative thought, but to destroy it. I have been there personally and professionally. See, what the libs don't understand, and, maybe there are a few good libs, but the passion in their hearts to destroy the righteousness. Look, that's why Obama was so effective. I mean, he wiped out a ton of conservative hosts. He did his very best to destroy me. That's why I'm here in Idaho. Google Kevin Miller Obama. It is there. You can read about it in the book Shut Up America. It's documented. And it's always funny to me when people label this program and, right-wing extremist. And I'm going, what's right-wing about wanting what's best for America, supporting traditional American values, what was taught when we were kids, and disagreeing with the progressive hard left turn? That's being extremist? Well, the airwaves don't deserve someone like this. We need to get him. And then you think to yourself, well, that's how somebody pays their mortgage and supports their family. What type of individual? But you see that with Bernie Sanders. You see it with Chuck Todd. You see it with Hillary Clinton, whether it's a local talk show host in Boise, Idaho by the name of Kevin Miller, or it's Sean Hannity, or it's Donald Trump. We are their targets, or it's you in your personal and private life. That's when people always say, hey, well, think about, I said, look, you got to listen to the program. That's the safe zone. Because everything else is crazy. When have you had a logical argument with a lib? That it doesn't get emotional, that it doesn't get personal. I see it all the time. That's why I just kind of run around and go hashtag winning. Because Trump is sticking it to people. The idea that Trump should go and smack Putin shows the utmost of misunderstanding and ignorance from the misinformed left. They want Trump to fail. It's kind of like when the Democrats would always give the Republicans advice. Do the Democrats really want the Republicans to succeed? The great Bob Novak had a line about that where he would say, well, I'm sure the Republicans are happy to take advice from a progressive liberal, right? More on that coming up. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work safely and on time. And Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. We love Dave Ramsey, noon to 3, right before Sean Hannity. Coming up next, the life after Google. Is there a life after Google? Plus more of your phone calls. Blessed to be a part of your day. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.